So now it's time to find the money and build.
That
so
is
that's been my
tremendous,
life for the past 3 years.
Right.
Maybe going on 4 years. You know, I've been working on I-73 and with all the engineering firms, and I'm working on a project, the Southern Evacuation Route.
Sure.
And
the
south part, Cell project here in Horry County.
Right.
I work on airport projects. I've got a couple of those, and working with the Army Corps of Engineers right now on a project for the Santee Cooper coal plant.
Great.
All of them are basically environmental impact studies.
Well, thank you again for giving us a little lead on that. And of course, the record of decision was in today's Herald. Folks need to catch it, the Valentine edition. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Thanks for giving us the lead on that so we can actually have it in today's paper, because it is great to think about reconnecting. Of course, you and Steve Porter still spend a lot of time together. You all
we
on
do.
the radio. Is that,
in the mornings, WRNN 99.5.
Right. That's
Steve,
exactly
Debbie,
right.
and Dave.
You're rushing from here over there, I know, this morning to get on the radio, and you'll be on until 9 later
I
this
will,
morning.
but I have a TV screen right up above where I sit.
That's right,
so
yes.
I have the TV on this morning watching.
Yeah,
I'll have
absolutely.
the mute button on, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
We'll maybe let the listeners listen to a little bit of it.
I love it. Good thinking, Debbie. Look at this. Neil Shore, here August 11, 94, new at Grand Strand Urology. And, of course, now we know Neil's been here for almost 14 years. I didn't know when he'd arrived. Here's something about...
We can look through here. We can see who made it and who didn't. And I was looking through all the announcements that have come through, whether it be Sandy Sandman or whatever it is. Oh, and we looked at the Spring-Made Villa Art Museum house.
Yes.
I followed this house.
Did you really? Down the Ocean Boulevard?
I followed this house down Ocean Boulevard. The truck came to get the house, and it was up near the Cabana section in Myrtle Beach, and they put it in the back, and I had my camera, and I drove behind the other vehicle behind the house going down the road and followed it most of the way down to the new Spring-Made Villa.
And it has showed up and is doing
Art
great.
Museum.
The Simeon B. Chapin, Burrs and Chapin Art Museum there, which has really done a tremendous job there.
Here's something I think is interesting, Greg. Look at this. This is August 1994.
Right.
Gang activity draws statewide concern.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I did not think that we really had that much of a gang activity, but looking back at the headlines, I guess it's been coming toward us for a while.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Think almost 14 years ago, 13 and a half years ago, Debbie, you were writing Frank Barnhill, and we see Frank's name on everything.
Frank was everywhere. Frank has worked for every news media there is in the area.
Where is Frank now? Is he, he's around town? I know he still does some of the radio pieces for some of the annual sports contests.
I know he fills in over at
Ainer.
CNN over at for Richard Green.
For Richard Green,
good.
So yes.
I don't know, but he was our first reporter now.
I love it. I saw on here, let's see. I
great.
hired one reporter, Frank Barnhill, one layout person, Michelle and one
Mance.
salesperson, Skeeter. And that was exciting to read about. I called the electrician, had one wall full of computers.
All the way
we
down
had
one wall.
Listen to this, Debbie. We had a wax machine,
Yes.
lots of board sheet paper layouts, blue pencils,
You don't
and
even know what that
scissors.
is,
I don't
do
know what
you?
any of that is. No, I hate to think that I own a weak community newspaper, and I don't know what blue line pencils and scissors would be for.
Well,
Board sheet
newspapers
paper.
for years were laid out on, this was a broadsheet paper, big paper.
Yeah.
And so we had big layout sheets and we had big layout boards. And then you would, however you got your type, the computers were not the norm during the first days.
Right.
And so you would run the type through the wax machine, and then you would cut it out with scissors and you would paste it up on the piece of layout paper. Well, that went on for years and years, and we were the first people actually to get rid of the blue line pencils, which you could make corrections with the blue line pencil. It would not, it wouldn't show up when it was printed.
Great, okay,
And so
I see.
you made the corrections with that, and then you would cut it out and paste the correction over it carefully.
Unbelievable.
And that's the way all newspapers were done. And
Dailies, weeklies, everything.
Everybody did their newspapers like that. You hand carried it to wherever you had it printed.
Right.
The sheets, big sheets. And so those days were gone for us. We started what they call the pagination process, which was laying out on the computer.
Back in '98, I think I saw.
We were the first newspaper to do that, and actually we were probably a couple of years in front of the daily newspaper.
Oh yeah, here. In front of the Sun News. Look at this, Garden City Furniture.
Yes.
Back in 1994, Diane
was
Ray
a
obviously
dear to supporting
us there. And it is great when you highlight support. We think now about, as we were saying yesterday, folks aren't spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every week with the Herald because we're locally owned and operated. But there may be a mixture in their mind. They could buy around the Herald, they could buy around the Oregon Independent, they could buy around weeklies, but they recognize this as reaching locals almost exclusively. There's not a lot of waste in the paper. I mean, it's reaching their target audience, shoppers rather than shoplifters, as we talked about.
One of the most exciting things we did, and I'd forgotten about it until I just saw it. We gave away $25 every week.
Is that right? Good. I ought to do that, Debbie. I like that.
It's during the football season.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And
$25 a week.
I learned more about football than I really wanted to know during that period of time. But Frank Barnhill was with us then, and Frank wrote a prognosticator column.
Right.
And I'm not looking at it right now, but in conjunction with that, we ran the football contest in the paper. We hit the mail market big time.
And so giving away cash to people really...
They ran into our office to make sure they got their ballots stuffed in the box before the deadline. And it was extremely exciting. It was, it was just,
I'm going to get you together with some of the advisors with the Herald. We'll talk to Donald and some others. I think giving away cash is a great idea.
Last week's winner, Frank Savino of North Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, look at that. And these guys
told who it was.
Right.
For the previous week, we'd mail them their $25 check, or they'd I'll come by and get it. So it
$25
really
is,
that's. The guys would go to the breakfast houses and fill out their sheets.
Right.
And mail it in to us. There'd be 10 in one envelope, and it was a great time.
I'll tell you a funny thing, Debbie. I was with my Harwell date last year. We went by to see her parents, talking to her mother, and her mother says, "Well, you probably know me, Greg." I thought, "Oh, really?" And she said, "Yeah, I've won movie tickets a number of times in the Herald. I filled out the crossword puzzles, and I've been randomly drawn. I thought, I should know you, Miss McKenzie." And of course, she is tremendous, and she fills out the crossword puzzles. But it's an amazing thing, and she has won randomly a number of times. It's fascinating to see how folks will really wrap around. Look at that, our friend.
The newspaper, Diane Devon Stokes, Friends in Focus. Myrtle Beach's head cheerleader is how we.
And look at her. She looks the same today. What a beautiful woman. Chuck out married himself just like David here with you. Look at that. Look how great she was.
Now, Chuck and Diane were at Shagging with the Stars last
Studebaker's
week.
a couple of weeks ago. Sure.
It was so much fun.
Yeah,
I got to
you were great.
Next year you have to be with the celebrities and Dancing with the Stars. It was a lot of fun to learn how to shag.
If what's the guy's name who puts it on, the Barry Thigpen? If Barry Thigpen will dress up as a woman for the Grand Strand Humane Society, then I will do that next year. Absolutely.
You've got it.
Okay,
Barry,
good.
you're dressing up like a woman.
I love it. I love it. If you can get Barry to do that for the Humane Society, I will do Shagging with the Stars. It's pretty difficult. I heard from Rick Neal, who was there representing the Herald, that you did a tremendous job.
I just had fun.
Yeah.
I just had fun. But I'd always wanted to learn how to shag.
Oh, yeah.
And when I told my instructor, which I said, well, I kind of know how to do that. They said, oh, we are in trouble. Because the ones who think they kind of know are the ones that we have to reteach.
Right.
And that's what
it's
he had to do.
Better just to have a blank slate. Do I see Sheriff Thompson in there, who at that time, no, I do not. I'm sorry. Looked like Philip, and of course he was with the police department then. Right, sure.
Yeah, Philip. This was before Philip's time, here.
Right.
Gosh,
Myrtle Beach
the stories.
Look at
Harold
this,
Worley
Debbie. I
with
know.
Governor
I hate
Carol
to say
Campbell.
it. We are running out of time. We just got a couple of minutes, but as you think about, as you look back over the last 14 years and think about the growth in the Herald, what are some of the feelings that you really get to? What are the takeaway feelings today, Debbie? What are some of the exciting aspects for you?
I feel like the newspaper was actually my base to the beach. It was kind of like putting the foundation on the house. I got to know the people. I got to explore the city. I got to find out who people were in the area and got all my questions answered. And I found out that I wanted to be part of that community, and I wanted to make sure that it ran right, that it grew, and that people contributed back to the community, that they weren't there for the taking. And that's one reason I'm so glad that you are now the current owner of the Myrtle Beach Herald, and you carry that responsibility very well.
Thank you, Debbie. Well, it is a big responsibility. I'm glad you highlight that, because we've got such a dedicated staff. Tom O'Dare, Betty Moses, who was
Betty's
with you forever.
just been there forever.
Who's amazing. Probably predated you almost. I mean, she has been such an amazing...
Betty came in, and it was really interesting. I had to have a bookkeeper. And
Right.
Betty had been up at North Myrtle Beach keeping
Right.
books for the Nixons, and so she came in as the bookkeeper.
Right.
And we had 2 layout and design people, one for ads and one for the newspaper.
Sure.
And one of them was leaving. And so Betty said, I really would kind of like to learn that. And I said, well, play around with it a little bit. She became the head layout
Oh,
person
yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
She was
That's an
so
amazing copy
creative. I
editor.
knew she could paint, she could write, so I
Right.
knew she had creative ability.
And how about her column now when you talk about creativity?
She's
My
she's
senior
national.
moment. Yeah.
She's wonderful.
She's really all over the place. Absolutely. Last week, of course, she went after her pal Steve Porter, who'd written about overweight folks recently, and she ripped into him in My Senior Moment last week. You'll have to check it out, Debbie.
She's terrific.
Congratulations again. Thank you for
Thank
setting
you
the
so
stage
much,
for us,
Fred.
Debbie.
Thank you for
and
having
happy
me so
Valentine's
much.
Day.
Thank you, and I'd like to say happy Valentine's Day to my 3 little grandsons,
Yeah,
Grayson, Chase, and Cohen.
there. They'll see this
And
on
my
Friday.
husband, too, of course. Happy
Oh, yeah.
Valentine's Day, honey. We forgot to talk about him.
We
This
didn't
is the first
talk about
time we've
David.
ever left him out.
I know. Well, we'll get David in another time to talk about you. Stay tuned to more Carolina People. Debbie Harwell, the founder of the Myrtle Beach Herald, coming up next. You know, we had enough time to talk to her about interviewing Jamie Farr and Roy Rogers. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, couldn't hear her talk about her happiest accomplishment, her son Mike. Fortunately, we did have time to hear her talking about wanting to experience it at all and being able to do that as a newspaper reporter. Unfortunately, we ran out of time and couldn't hear her talk about her Valentine, her husband, David Harwell. Fortunately, we'll get her back another time, and we'll get David in sometime to talk about the Herald. He actually helped broker the deal when the sale took place in November 2003. It's been a great run. She set the ball rolling, and obviously the ball's going to keep rolling for many years to come. Debbie Harwell, the founder of the Myrtle Beach Herald.